Hey, what's up, my beautiful people? How y'all all doing? I hope y'all are doing well. It's your boy Devo, some motivational, back with another market review. Um, sorry, not market review, a watch list for Monday, a Monday watch list. There we go. And so basically, I want to get on here and show y'all. We'll tell y'all about the news that we have coming out, and then basically going over. As you can see, I'm on the Robinhood right now, and you can see overnight. I want to show you what the market's doing currently, and then what I can expect going into tomorrow. Okay, so let's get right into it. I know it's late, and so over the weekend we had. I don't know what this is. Close this. Sorry about that. So on the weekend, we actually did have some good news, with Trump saying he was going to exempt smartphones, electronics, and semiconductors, which are like chips, like Nvidia chips and these Apple chips and stuff. He was going to exempt them from tariffs, but not the reciprocal 145% tariffs. It was just going to be, well, he was going to exempt them from those. Sorry about that. He was going to exempt smartphones, electronics, and the semiconductors from the 145% tariffs, but they were still going to be under, I believe, the 20% tariffs. Okay, so let me read this to y'all so we know exactly the exempt. And then also he came out and then said that he said this. Okay, the exemption of smartphones, laptops, and other electronics. Another Man, I can't even talk today. The exemption of smartphones, laptops, and other electronic products from import tariffs on China will be short lived. Top U.S. officials have said, with Donald Trump warning that no one was getting off the hook. Okay, we all know that. He said there. Then he said after that report came out about the electronics exemptions, he said there was no tariff exception. Trump said in a social media post on Sunday, these products are subject to the existing 20% fentanyl tariffs, and they just are moving to a different tariff bucket. Okay, and so that's basically all it is. Is he's not, so how he imposed 145% tariffs on China. So like our iPhones would have been like increasingly more expensive, and other electronics we get from there. He's basically saying, okay, we're not going to have tariffs on those products, not the 145% tariffs on those products, but they're still going to be under, which are the 20% tariffs. Okay, and so let me come to my Robinhood. And so as you can see, the SPY, which is the top 500 companies we know, reacted good off this news, and actually the whole market is pretty much up right now. Let me pull the Robinhood up on my phone real quick. Yeah, the whole market is pretty much up right now. We can see the SPY, which is the S&P, is up $3, and it actually was up to 540, so it was up about $6 or when the report first came out. And then after Trump basically came out and said, no, they're not completely exempt from tariffs, just basically exempt from the 145%. Okay, and then as we could see, we come to the QQQ. QQQ actually had a good jump. Why? Because QQQ is just the Nasdaq, and the Nasdaq is just all tech heavy, right? It's basically all of tech, all of semiconductors, all of tech. Okay, and so that's good news for the techs. Okay, and so let's go into, so that's why we have this overnight pump going on, but we can't get too ahead of ourselves going into tomorrow just thinking, oh, it's gonna be a pump, because the tariffs aren't completely off. Okay, and he's saying, yeah, I gotta go into this. Sorry about that. I have a lot of news, so kind of everywhere. Sorry about that. Okay, and so we're not completely out of the woods. He's just basically saying that the 145% are exempt, but they're still going to be under the 20%. Okay, and then on Friday, the exclusion from some electronic products from steep reciprocal tariffs. Yep, U.S. stock markets were expected to stage a recovery after the announcement. Shares in Apple and chipmaker Nvidia were on course to soar after tariffs on their products imported into the U.S. were lifted for 90 days. Okay, so we already know we had that huge spike up from that 90-day pause. Okay, and that's why when we first got that news out, I was like, oh yeah, tomorrow is gonna go crazy. Okay, but since he kind of walked back those complete tariffs and just said no, they're under 20%, which is actually still really good news, right? Because from if we had 145% tariffs on all our iPhones and chips and stuff, we were definitely gonna feel those. Okay, we were definitely gonna feel those price jumps. But now it's 20%, which you still gonna feel it probably, but it just won't be as much. And so 20% isn't bad. So basically, I'm pretty sure they're gonna work out a deal. Why did he actually exempt those things from the tariffs? Well, what I believe is Trump is trying to move all the manufacturing over to the US, right? He wants us to be not have to be dependent on China, right? That is the whole point of all this, I believe, right? But he knows it's gonna take a while for these factories and these factories for these companies and stuff. In order for these factories to get built and to get workers in and all this stuff, this is gonna take time, right? This isn't like, okay, we moved everything over here. Tomorrow, U.S. is gonna be making iPhones. You know what I'm saying? So it, it's gonna take longer than that. It'll take a couple years for us to get the factories up and running and stuff like that. You know, get the people in to start building these things. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much why he's basically taking the smartphones, electronics, and chips out, because those are very important things in the U.S. Right? Like obviously smartphones, but the electronics and the chips and stuff for like, I know we use these chips and these smart little semiconductors and stuff are for like military and all this other stuff, which is kind of beyond me, right? But we use all this stuff, right? Like these semiconductors and stuff are like very important things, right? And so basically he's just lowering the tariffs from that, okay? And then what else do we have? He says he will provide more info on semiconductor tariffs on Monday, okay? And so tomorrow we will be watching that news. Why? Because let's come into the charts. Why? Because, and I'll tell you why I have this little line right here. Just give me a second, okay? So right now we were on the QQQ, looking at the QQQ. Why? Because this is what we will be looking at going tomorrow. I will have the SPY up as well, but we will be looking at the QQQ because this could potentially have a huge jump with all the tech good news, right? And so as you know, that last pause and that last really good tariff news caused price to jump from 515 all the way up to 565, right? That is a $50 jump. So that's pretty crazy. And so currently we are sitting at what, 554, and we see overnight markets are at around 460. It was at 460 earlier. I'll just say 460. You can come back over here. Sorry, boys and girls. Okay, I have to check, make sure. Sometimes it be messing up. Okay, so we're sitting around 460, and we could potentially see a big move up, okay? But we want to make sure we're still watching that news, right? Watching that news to see what Trump is going to come out with, because we know he is going to move these markets, right? If he comes out and says, we worked out a deal, we're not going to have no tariffs on the semiconductors, we will see a big pump. We will see a big jump, right? But if he comes out and says, you know, some bad news, like maybe I'm going to have to up the tariffs on it, or I don't know, any bad news, right? Any type of negative tariff news, right? We will see a drop again, right? And so that's what I'm looking forward. That's what I'm looking forward to is to see what news we have coming out tomorrow. Usually he likes to speak around the 12ish, so I could see maybe a little chop. I could see probably chop going into tomorrow. Until when he talks, that's when we will have either a pump or a dump, okay? And so we need to be paying attention to that, right? Paying attention to his news, okay? And so why do I have this line here? Well, we can see, let me zoom out actually because it looks better. As we can see, we have this little bearish trend line going down here. And so this is actually, this is actually something I knew about trend lines, but I'm not really a trend line trader. This is actually something I learned from Stocks with Josh, right? And that's where we got to keep learning. We learn from others and learn from people that are farther along the journey, right? And so I have this trend line here. Why? Because you respect, most of the time in a trend, you will respect the trend line, right? And that's where in the trend, as I trade the fair value gaps, and I want my supply and demand, and you want your fair value gaps and order blocks, you will see price do those things throughout this trend line, right? And so it's all how you want to trade, right? As long as there's many ways to trade, many different strategies to trade, right? And there's many different ways that work. Okay, you just got to pick one that works for you. Okay, and so, but what I'm looking for is if price will respect this trend line and knock it down, or if we can actually get some good news and pump above this trend line, right? And so if we do get some good news, or even going into tomorrow, since we're sitting at this 460 area, I can see price try to come up and try to test this trend line, right? Around this 468, 469, 470 level. And so that's kind of what I would be looking for going into tomorrow, this little trend line. I can come into my, let me come into my 5-minute. Yep, see? Yeah. You can see how price just respects the trend line, right? Bop, 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 bop. So we could see maybe tomorrow, since we do have some good news, because regardless if we're still under the tariffs, right? We're still under these tariffs. That is a huge drop from saying, okay, we're the 145% on China. We're not going to, even though the 145% tariffs are still in China, the semiconductors and iPhones and electronics are going to be exempt from that. That is still huge news, right? From 145 down to 20, but you won't see us rally to the all-time high yet, right? Because we're still under a lot of tariff talk, and Trump is still saying, oh my goodness, this ad keeps popping up. He's still saying that he will provide an update on his administration's approach to semiconductor tariffs on Monday. I'll give you the answer on Monday. Trump told earlier the Trump administration granted tariff exemptions for smartphones, computers, and other electronic imports, many of which are sourced from China, shielding them from the President Donald Trump's steep 125% tariffs. So that is still huge news, okay? Sorry. So that's why I can see us trying to pump and come up here, and we're already filling this gap. We're already at this 460 filling this gap, right? And so we would have a little resistance. I will have my, I will have my little resistant line up here, right? You know, gotta give me a good number. I will have me a resistant line up here. I had one right here because we seen these heavy sell-offs, but we broke through, and we're up here at this 560 level. I will keep this here, and what would I make this? I'll make this a support. Why would I make it a support? Because previous resistance turns to support, right? And so since we're at this 460, what can we see going in tomorrow? Since we could see a pump, right? We could get a pump because we know we have this good news, but we also have this support. So you already know what I'm about to say, right? We're starting up at this gap, right? We could see a small downtrend to start the morning to get, you know, just to give a little fake out, because we already know the market likes to fake out, likes to grab liquidity, likes to do everything under the sun to try to get these orders in and try to stop people out and do whatever before it wants to do its real move, right? So I can see us, if we start tomorrow around this 458, 460 area, I can see us downtrend and try to test this area of support, right? Test this area of support before trying to head up to this 467, okay? And so that's what I would be looking for going into tomorrow, okay? And pretty quick, nothing too much, right? Remember, guys, I will be here tomorrow showing up for you guys. Remember, we are day traders. We show up daily, okay? Sometimes we might not get a setup that we always like. We might not get our setup, right? And so if we don't get a setup, we don't trade, okay? We don't force trades, but we do show up daily to at least look through these markets. I'm gonna be on my QQQ. We know we're gonna be on our SPY. And what did I add? We gotta look at that Tesla chart. We have to look at that Tesla chart because we know Friday had some of the best price action that you're ever gonna get. And actually, let me come back to this. I'm actually gonna go back to that Tesla chart. But so yeah, so what do I want to see tomorrow on my QQQs? I want to see a start around this 460. I want to see a drop in price, probably try to clean up this little area gap. It could, clean up this little area gap as well, testing this area of resistance. And then what do I want to see? So let me draw it out. Excuse me. If we start at this 460, what do I want to see? I want to see a little downtrend for getting some wicks, right? Getting some wicks because that's showing buyer pressure. I want to see some wicks, and I want to see a change of character, right? I want to see a high, a low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high before giving this what? A higher low, and then eventually making a higher high, reversing trend, and trying to see our way up, right? So that's what I want to see going into tomorrow. But we have to pay attention to that news, okay? We have to be on our phone. We have to keep refreshing our pages, seeing what Donald Trump is going to say, okay? Because we do not want to miss these moves, okay? I'm already feeling like tomorrow is going to be not tomorrow. Well, tomorrow could be a big day, but I'm already feeling like next week is going to be a big week, okay? I'm telling you guys, we will have a winning week next week, okay? I will not let y'all down, okay? And so let's look at this Tesla chart again, right? And so as we know, we had some of the prettiest price action ever, right? And I was actually looking at it some more, right? I was actually looking at it some more, and I actually missed something. I missed another break of structure, okay, believe it or not. So what did we have? Oh, man. Okay, yeah, we're right here. What did we have? So remember, we had that run up, these sweeps, right? Sweep, had our pullback before having our what? Change of character, right? Because we had our pullback and then our change of character. You already know this, we went over it, right? We had our change of character, but we had our change of character before we had our pullback to our fair value gap. We already know we broke structure, right? And so what did we do when we broke structure? We created another fair value gap per order block, right? We know this, we went over it. We came into this fair value gap, broke structure again, right? And this is where I missed. I missed this one. So I went over these three, but I missed one more, right? So when we break structure, what do we create? Another fair value gap and order block, right? And this is why I just want to come back and show you guys, because I just want to show you guys how price respects these order blocks in on fair value gaps. So I'm just trying to show you this so you can see why I like to wait on these things, why I like to wait on pullbacks to these fair value gaps, why I like to wait on pullbacks to these order blocks. So that's why, because I'm losing these trades, I'm losing some of these trades, and whenever I'm winning some of these trades, I'm telling you guys where I'm getting in and why I'm waiting on price to do these things. But also I want to show you how in different charts and different charts, different companies, how it does this. Like the market is the market, okay? And so no matter what you trade, now I know these are just stocks, but if you're in crypto, you will also see price react off of your fair value gaps. You will see support and resistance, okay? And so I just wanted to just show this back to you guys, because it's just like so, like it also reinforces to myself, like, okay, yeah, this is why I wait for these things, right? And so when we broke structure, we get a fair value gap. We have a fair value gap right here, right? And we also have what? We have an order block. Why is this our order block? Because it's the candle before our break of structure, right? It's the candle or candles before the next leg down, right? And so the next leg down is the next break of structure move, right? And so this one right here, this right here is a leg down, right? This right here is a leg down, right? This right here is a leg down, right? So you see what I'm saying there? Like, are you getting why I'm saying a leg? Like, that's what I mean when I'm saying leg down, right? And so what did we do when we broke structure? We created a fair value gap in our order block, and as we see, price respected these order blocks. You see it? Because it's a bearish order block, right? Because the bears knocked price down, breaking structure, right? So as we see, when we pulled up into this order block, heavy wick, knocked price down, right? Price came back up. These buyers were strong, right? Because we were far down the trend, right? We broke structure once, twice, and we knocked price down all the way from If you wanna, yeah, if you wanna 257 all the way down to 244. So that's a $13 move, right? And so it was trying to find some area of support right here, right? It was trying to find some area of support, right? As you can see, knocked it up. It was trying to knock it up. We see we have a area of some buyers right here, which is a little lower than our support. As you can see, some buyers are right here, right? So these buyers were coming in strong. You see this big old candle, 246 to the top of this wick, 249, right? And so they were trying, and as you can see, it came back up again, trying to test it. That order block knocked it straight back down. And what did that order block do? Broke structure again. So this is why I'm just showing you. This is why I'm gonna have to pay attention to Tesla, but I'm gonna be on my QQQs mainly tomorrow. Why? Because QQQs is the semiconductors, or it is the iPhones, it is all the electronics, right? It's all tech. It's Nasdaq and QQQ are the same, S&P 500 and the SPY are the same. That's why I like to trade those main two, and that's why if you say like, Devin, why don't you always trade Tesla? You know, because I mean the Tesla is in SPY. What happens in Tesla happens in SPY, right? Because the SPY is the top 500 companies. QQQ is all tech heavy, right? So these things usually they kind of align, right? This day it didn't happen, right? And some days it won't happen, okay? And some days you'll actually get a pump from SPY or get a pump from QQQ, but Tesla will be down. But that would be because the other companies outweigh Tesla. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of times they correlate, but sometimes they can outperform each other, right? And so yeah, we had another breakout structure. So this was a huge payday, okay? And so tomorrow I will be paying attention to all three of those, but I will mainly be on my QQQ. I will most likely come to you guys with a trade recap on the QQQs, right? And that'll actually be my first trade recap for you guys to the QQQs. Y'all mainly see me on the SPY, okay? And so that's pretty much it. Pretty short, but I hope I got some knowledge out for you guys. Remember, I love every single one of y'all that are with me on the journey. Y'all are seeing the goods, the bads, the uglies. Y'all are seeing the whole journey, okay? And so remember, trading is risky. Make sure to manage y'all's risk. Make sure to study so you know what you're looking at, okay, guys? Oh, man, this glare is bad, okay? I'm sorry for that. Make sure to study to manage your risk. I love every single one of y'all, okay? And remember, guys, stay persistent, passionate. Make sure y'all get paid, all right? Peace.